I can't believe we got it! A few more tasty morsels of Tomodachi Life. Living the dream, you guys. This first 2 minutes of this video right now, we are going to analyze everything that we can see here, but first 2 minutes going to be just kind of looking at this as it goes with the new Tomodachi Life. Living the dream trailer, you guys. Everything looks even more sharp, to be honest. I kind of commented on this when we first broke down the first trailer, you guys, which, by the way, feel free to check that out. I'm going to have it in the description, in the end screen, probably, top pinned comment, all those places that you can find the previous videos on this channel. Yeah, so we already broke down the first trailer and everything, but now that we have this new one, there is a lot more, look at this. When I say a lot more, it's like we are really gonna take 2 minutes and probably break it down into 10 to 20 minutes, I like this because you can see it actually says horror. This was always one of those games, Tomodachi Life games, they had real life writing sometimes, I felt just when you think about, I'm trying to think of an example, Splatoon would probably be it, but kind of a lot of Nintendo games I feel like must fit this, and the fact that I can't actually think of more of them might mean it's not a lot, but there's several games that just kind of have their own language, right? So they won't always have a, word in English or something on the book, whatever language you may speak, of course. Notice we can obviously pick up our Miis and drop them. We're gonna force them to talk to each other. You have to, you guys. You see how the world is right now? We all gotta start talking to each other more. No, I hate it, trust me. I'm an introvert. All right. But yeah, like I say, we're gonna go over this, piece by piece slower. I just wanted to go through the trailer once with you guys, kind of in full speed, we could say. But yeah, this is nuts. It's getting chased by a giant bowling ball, and then I love that they did end it off with the Me News Network. Me News, MNN. They're bringing us breaking news, yes, because Tomodachi Life, living the dream. Ladies and gentlemen, coming out in 2026 as we knew, but they said it's the spring, if I had to guess. I'm gonna say March or April. I don't think they're pushing it back to May, unless we get that there's some kind of delay, and then at that point, it may not even be spring. Please don't delay, please. So here we go, mostly piece by piece. Look at this. Right from the start, you get kind of a good lay of the land. This is very much, we're gonna say almost to a T, exactly how they had the island layout. That's in the first trailer, right? But we do see some new Miis. I think a few of them repeat, but some of them new. But even to the point where the houses, they are the same colors that we saw. The flowers, I mean, look at these big sunflowers and stuff. It's all, I would say it really is largely the same layout, but they did actually add a little bit more details. These are the types of things that people would miss, maybe if they're not quite looking out for them, or they just might think, this game looks better than I thought it did previously when I saw the first trailer. There's a reason for that, right? They actually did kind of add just small details here and there. It could be a comparison of the Switch 1 compared to Switch 2. You're not gonna see this huge major difference all the time, but certain things, maybe. So yeah, one great look of just having more Miis and stuff. Not only is it just more Miis, more fun, but we see more styles. I think that was a big part when we saw the first Nintendo Direct trailer for Tomodachi Life, living the dream. And again, some of these Miis are repeating, but for the new ones, we're seeing some new clothes, even new hairstyles like that. Some of these where they're sitting on the fountain right here. Look at that hair. Fantastic. I mean, slay, am I right? Alright, I'm probably not right, but also in this scene, we see it I think a few times maybe, but this side of the house, so look at the blue house and we'll play this over, slow it down, still screenshot it and stuff. The side of the house that we're looking at right now actually does have a little bit more detail than they previously showed, in that there's just some of that typical MRO, I learned it was called at a previous job, maintenance, repair, and overhaul. That's actually typically screws, maybe parts that make things actually move, mechanical, electrical, etc. So perhaps what I more mean is just the typical city maintenance and stuff, but you have these fans whirring, maybe little meter checking, and there are the vents. They might have actually had the vents in that first trailer. To be honest, we didn't get a crazy good look at the houses on the other side, in that first trailer of the Nintendo Direct. But yeah, I think you technically saw those little circular fans and stuff. It's just we didn't get to see them kind of just whirring. Again, these are small details, right? but I appreciate that. I appreciate a small detail change or what have you. And look, as our village elder is asking when is the game coming out, you can actually see this kid from the first time we analyzed the trailer, but also this dude. He's got some cool hair right there. They're just straight up LARPing, aren't they? They are ready for Tomodachi Comic-Con, right? But yeah, yet another kind of overhead shot with the logo of the game right here. So again, there may be things that we don't point out that you're like, wait, he didn't talk about this. He didn't point out that. It's because we've already pointed it out in the first breakdown. So again, look to that. Check it out if you haven't seen it. I really like looking at this though. We were wondering about just me customization, and I knew that it had to be decent, right? Because we just saw it with our own eyes, but we didn't get to see this screen. So now the fact that we can break down, all right, here are the eyebrows. We see a lot of different hair and whatnot, new noses. But look at this. There's this girl right here that sort of has that auburn hair. Is that what you would call that color? I may be getting my colors wrong, but this is actually a subcolor. So a secondary hair color right there. Boom. Man, that was amazing. Just that one little second has so much. So they're putting on more of an orange highlight to it, So I'm pretty sure that would imply that like all these hairs can have a subcolor, because then the very next scene over, you can see that like there are bangs. You can check the back of the hair. So like that's all cool. I think that that's going to add some more customization. But then you see over on the right side, subcolor. So I think once you check that, then it's going to open up the palette down below with the bar, so that's where you're going to be able to change your subcolor, your highlights for your characters. And so these Miis, it's incredible because I do feel like there are new hairstyles and things that we can see it right here just in comparison to that first trailer breakdown and stuff. But there's even you see the word sets up here. So there's going to be the sets of hair. And so that's very likely similar to when you're customizing a Mii, in our generic Mii options and things. They didn't really call it sets, but you can almost consider like these first few pages and stuff like, okay, so there's going to be kind of hair that was probably more typically for male characters. I don't know if they ever said like male and female at a time. But notice also as we kind of keep seeing these, there's even more shirts that we can see, just more clothing that we can see, but everything has more options, I feel like. And you can note that on the left side, that's where you're going to select, obviously, like, all right, the mouth, the nose, the eyes. We mentioned that there are ears, the Miis do have ears in Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream, but you can even customize those up pretty deeply. They don't show exactly what the menus look like here in this trailer, but there could have been a thought that like, the ears are just going to be a little bit more generic. Like every Mii has ears, but they're just a generic set. No, like you can actually get a different kind of ear shape, let's call it, like these, would you say chicken nugget ears? And then a little bit more round and like stubby and short, So surely, yeah, look at this one. Like this is a little bit more definition, let's call it, to the ear shape. So yeah, plenty of that. And I think, let's not like quote me on this yet, but I think that the skin colors, you notice when we go back, they do have the paint palette here too. So I wonder, are you going to be able to just have like a green Mii or like a completely blue or red, pick those custom colors. And I do think that that will be the case because again, we see when we get that girl with the subcolors. So like you set sort of, here's what I like. I think this is very promising, but like I think on this first side, we'll call it the left, but it's really in the middle of the screen. I think you're going to select your first kind of basic palette, right? So it'd be like black. Okay, well that's going to be like black, a little bit lighter, gray, like into white or something. But like imagine, there's going to be red, and then you'll have just a whole bunch of different shades of red into pink. So I do think that the palette will give us a broad spectrum of colors, and I think it's going to go pretty deep, which is great. Like this is awesome. But the question that I had, and I did upload a live reaction of the trailer and stuff like that. So if you guys wanted to see that, I can also link that everywhere that we need to. But there's a head that has like a paintbrush, right? And so that could certainly be makeup, but I'm opening it up to the possibility that it's Miitopia style makeup, right? Like maybe it won't go that in depth, like to the Miitopia levels, but could we just kind of see a little bit more than we're used to with typical Mii customization, right? But they don't go into that, unfortunately, in this trailer, because there's also those little like sparkles, the smiley face with the sparkles right there. So again, this is all just to imply that I think the customization is going to satisfy a lot of people, you guys. Customization in Living the Dream is hopefully going to be great. And speaking of course, there are also the personality, I was going to say sliders, but it's more just the personality setting. So you can almost consider it a slider in that each one of these movement, speech, energy, thinking, overall, like you're gonna have just a varying degree where, all right, movement, they're very slow or quick, and it's all the way to one end or somewhere in the middle. And this is nice because when you think about, I'm gonna call it the first game, but I do acknowledge that it's really just the first game for, let's say, like North America, for example. So when I say the first game, I do mean Tomodachi Life that was on the 3DS, but I'm not perhaps acknowledging that, yeah, there was a game in Japan before that and stuff. So they did have movement with how fast and stuff they could be in the previous game, but I did want to say maybe we can compare this to some like rudimentary pictures from the 3DS, but they actually switch sides. So like when you see overall, quirky was kind of on our left and normal would be to our right, whereas in this, Living the Dream, it's the opposite. I think that kind of makes sense, but movement, that always made sense, Slow on the left, quick on the right. They did have speech in the previous game, but it was polite and direct, I think. But yeah, there was like expressiveness and attitude. But now we have thinking, which can be serious or chill instead of relaxed. And energy can be flat or varied instead of expressiveness. So point being, it's a little bit different and a little bit the same. And then when you're setting the voice of the character, they do have more simple settings. So if you want to go with like the L or the R, you can switch between simple and custom. There's tone that says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the previous game, intonation that had 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, more options. That's always good. I think it would be to be understood, right? That they would offer more options. Speed and pitch, they changed. So like it used to be pitch first, speed second, but now they just flip-flop those. Not that these are big deals, right? But they have depth. Depth was not in the previous game. Tone actually was it was a slider, because intonation was what they had for the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 in the previous game. Delivery, that's different. And so I think depth in this game, Living the Dream, is going to be kind of like quality was in the previous game. Maybe like a combination of quality and tone or intonation. It kind of just makes the me sound more clearer, like more easier to be understood here.
My name is Anne.
So yeah, that's all neat. The house starting off just with nothing in it. That seems to imply that hopefully we can have a lot of control over the design of the houses because, again, we'll see this in a little bit, but there does seem to be customization there too that's nice. Notice on the scene where they've all got maracas. They're having a good time, but then there's another fart. You guys, they're sticking with the fart, huh? But yeah, like look at this house. This gives me a lot of hope in that we could probably design these houses very much how we want to, like we may not be able to put the chair where we want to right there. It may come with that desk or like, the computer may as well. They've got a laptop and stuff. But the fact is like we can probably put that desk and stuff in the corner and then have all of these. I called it anime style. It's more like a boy band. We got this K-pop. So yeah, they've got little like standees of the characters. God bless this old woman doing her ballet here. She's definitely the K-pop stan. I mean, she's got shirts. She's got a bag. She's got fans, you guys. And again, the little characters, there's posters. And so the question is, when there's merchandise like that, let's call it, is that all something that Tomodachi Life sets, or can we make our own bags? So we probably, I'm not gonna say you can't do this definitively, but like there's even a pillow with these characters on them and stuff. Can we do like custom patterns? Animal Crossing New Horizons had the custom patterns. So like I made an entire series of episodes, like 20 videos or so. Maybe I could have gone on longer. It's just life is crazy. But, Sonic the Hedgehog, like could I make a Sonic t-shirt or like a pixel art, Sonic fan that's hanging up on the wall? But yeah, there was a bookshelf in there as well. These sort of shorter 2-tier bookshelves right next to each other. But then when we go here, we're actually going to get the name of this me right now that we're looking at. Well, I don't know that we get the name right here, do we? Yeah, okay, so there is feeding them in the game. We're going to play back to this in a second, like play this back, but you're going to see that this me's name is Alice, and so we saw her from the first trailer breakdown and stuff. She became like huge, ginormous in that probable dream sequence. But yeah, she's got that same kind of scribbly, something's wrong, that symbol. They did have that in the previous game. It was white, of course, the background of it. And so Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, you can see just in the logo of this game, it is yellow, the background of it, right? And so I think that that's like fitting the theme. But this is cool again because there are like these bookshelves, but they're a little bit more like shelves that you see nowadays too. Like you saw in the woman doing the ballet, she had different shelving, if you want to call it that. And so you have to wonder what the degree of customization is with these. But yeah, certainly you can pick different shelves. They got a rubber ducky on there. Like there's a lot to look at, like the old-timey looking radios and stuff. A Rubik's Cube is up on top of it. There's a picture of this Mii, so like a picture of Alice is in there. Can we do that for all of our Miis, you know? Could Alice have a picture of someone else, like that old woman? Can our Miis pine over another Mii? Can they fawn over someone else, right? And so you're actually going to see that this is a transition, and it's because Nintendo's being sneaky. They wanted to hide this from us. I'm so hungry, please feed me. It actually fades. So this is a fade transition, like a lot of us content creators would know, right? You know, you're going to fade into the next shot, a crossfade technically, I guess, so I should call it crossfade. So they do crossfade into the next one, and that's probably to hide a lot of the food options. This literally just looks like lettuce though, so I mean, I guess you could just eat straight up heads of lettuce, huh? Which, hey, that checks out. But yeah, okay, so Alice, is an ambitious achiever, and they do have the markings for adult and child right here, so this is all like good, right? Because we can see what they love, we can see what they like, and we can see what they loathe, so we're gonna know what they dislike here. This is her happiness. It's at level 3. Potentially there are gonna be things to unlock maybe, right? You know, you gotta think about like happiness level 4, 5, 6. Can you then unlock new things to put in your house, new clothing options? It could be very dependent on like your whole island, you know, the happiness of the whole island. But yeah, clearly Alice likes the lettuce. She liked it. But yeah, you can also see how full they are, you know, so she's probably still hungry after that. The significance of this next scene where you're gonna see this Mii, actually we get their name too, here just laying down, right? So what I'm saying is significant about this is we can actually place this on the map where this is and stuff because we've got these flowers and they do look bigger when you're kind of zoomed in on your Miis. But the main thing to note here is just that you can turn the camera. That's probably obvious. I mean, it wasn't confirmed up until now, you could say. But yeah, like this, I think shows us that you can at least get the 4 different points. Think about turning just like clockwise 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees. And so like that would be what? North, east, south, west. So essentially all of those perspectives, you know, you could turn on the island here. And yeah, you can pick up your Miis and it's going to be A to drop them. So A to pick them up, A to drop them. And of course, when they get close enough, you can do a meetup. And so this is where we were saying before, you got to force them to talk. Because yeah, Polly wants a cracker and she really wants to tell a joke that she spent all night thinking about. You know, that's like me. I'm sitting here at 3 a.m. Oh, here's a joke I've got. It's a minor thing, but I also want to tell you guys there's a blue butterfly actually in the background. A lot of these are kind of like the common yellow, common white butterflies maybe from Animal Crossing. You know, we saw those in a lot of the Animal Crossing as well. This was not in the previous breakdown of the prior trailer, but there is a little blue colored one in there that I just wanted to point out. And so yeah, look at the waves, look at the island waters and stuff. But okay, what do we got? Polly and Susie, acquaintances that are getting familiar. Yep, and now they're just running after each other. Kids, enjoy that life, man. Life comes at you fast. So this next scene, very goofy. You're gonna have these realistic looking hands, fingers, I guess. A little disturbing. Sometimes Tomodachi Life is like that though. A lot of you guys that played the previous game on 3DS, you know this. There's gonna be some disturbing things, but also funny things, just random things, man. And so yeah, this is actually a better look at the vending machines. You know, we were talking about this in my first trailer breakdown and stuff. We didn't really get to see them up close like this. And so now you can see what's offered. You know, some of them actually kind of, this yellow one, for example, it seems to imply that it's more about coffee, or they at least have an advertisement for coffee. But then you're gonna see like an orange soda, and this is where the words get a little bit messed up, right? Like this, it kind of looks like oh joy. But yeah, in coffee, it looks like it's spelled like cafe, you know, C-A-F-E, but it could be like coffee, C-O-F-E, but they're just like making, you know, it's like a likeness to the word, not the exact word. So what we saw earlier was the guy was reading a book that said horror on it, and that was actually truly in English. It was spelled how horror is spelled, so, a little discrepancy here. But yeah, these could be things that you do, like little mini games that you could play with these fingers going up and down. I don't say it, anybody. Don't say it, chat. Fingering. But yeah, more than likely, it could just be that you can observe your little Miis here on our island doing things like this. There's butterflies and stuff, and the whole thing gets sparkly, but a lot of this is reminiscent of the dream sequences and whatnot. Or just when you would stumble upon let's say that your Mii in the 3DS game, it would have been like on the Ferris wheel or hanging out in the diner in the cafe. You could kind of observe them, but I think the more weirder it gets, more likely it's going to be a dream sequence. And so these that are all falling on this poor Mii over and over and over again, it's the Super Scope. You can see that they've even paired the power with it, You see like the cord. So each one of those Super Scopes does have that. But yeah, we know about where because we analyzed that. Clothing. As we're looking at this scene, obviously a giant bowling ball. It's chasing this Mii down the street. Surely it has to be a dream, right? And don't call me Shirley. You actually hear the Mii scream, quote unquote. It just goes, like in the very text-to-speech kind of way. And then the warning sign, you guys. I'm guessing that that's not always there. We don't always see it there, I don't think. When they went to the Mii News Network, you guys, at the end, it did say not representative of actual gameplay experience. But what's funny is I feel like that could be, honestly. Like, they totally did have the Mii News. So why not have this kind of Mii News Network experience right now on the breaking news? Like, I feel like it could look like that, but hey, they're keeping themselves safe, I guess. But there are some things that I haven't even pointed out yet, like, when you're on the beach, you can actually see the starfish, but the walls also have like different wallpapers and different flooring, different ceiling lights or lampshades and things. So I do think that this is all worth like playing back over and over, to kind of see things. But I did want to talk kind of about some UI things. We did talk about this in the I guess it was my very first breakdown of that first trailer. So this is actually a repeat, but one of these things is I think that this game's going to have some very nice little touches. Again, it's all about those little details. I'm almost infatuated by these things. So we see it here with the pink building. It's just to the side of the logo right now that I can zoom in on. They do this little see-through effect, so if you do have a Mii that's behind a building, they could even be sitting down or something, and you may not see them. You're going to actually be able to see them with that see-through cutaway effect. I'm just bringing that up again because these are like the little details that I notice with Tomodachi Life living the dream, and the further that we kind of analyze and look at it, the more we can find these things. So one of them, for instance, is when you saw these forcing the Miis to talk to each other, you'll notice in the bottom right, so you'll have X, so that's clearly looking like your kind of just options, like your menu, right? So, go back to the main menu, whatever options in there, but also then you could press the Y button, and you're going to see that this one, it has a little human-like icon. It's probably for your Miis, of course. It says the number 1. There's also another part of the trailer where it says 5. And so these are likely points of interest or interaction that you can have with your Miis that are specific to the game. So let's say, for instance, hunger. This could kind of like replace, sort of when you look at the Mii apartments in the previous Tomodachi Life, it's like you could see a breakdown of like, okay, this person's upset or they want me for something, so this is sort of like your symbol or signal to go to those Miis, tend to their needs or talk to them, but also maybe, let's say that there was not a number, like you could probably use that to then see all of the Miis. Let's imagine like a bird's eye view of them, or just like a list view, of your Miis to kind of easily pinpoint and go to one of them. That's what I would have to imagine. But you guys, one of the best things about this channel and doing things like this where we break down these trailers is getting your opinion. So please, you guys, join the Discord. That's going to be linked everywhere. Leave your comments, and maybe we make another video a few days down the line that involve your comments and stuff. Get what I didn't point out. I didn't necessarily miss it. It's just I could like ramble on and on and on, like about the Mii's blowing bubbles out here, or Alice is like knocking on the street light, so that street lamp is kind of like flickering. So yeah, you guys tell me what you want to talk about, and click an end screen to see something else. And of course, thanks for viewing.